What would you do if the people who raised you drained your savings and laughed in your face? That was the moment everything cracked. It started the night after our family reunion. I was standing in the kitchen of my apartment, still wearing the same jeans from earlier, refreshing my banking app for the fourth time. The number on the screen didn't change, 4897. Yesterday it was over $14,000. I blinked as if my eyes could fix it. I refreshed again. Still 487. Then came the voice behind me, slurred and smug. Relax. Mason. Seth snorted from the fridge, cracking open a beer. We needed it more than you. I turned slowly. He leaned against the counter like he owned the place, that half smile stuck on his face. He didn't look the slightest bit sorry. My stomach twisted. What the hell are you talking about? I asked, barely recognizing my own voice. Across the living room, my sister Sarah lounged on the couch like she was watching Netflix, legs tucked under her wine glass in hand. She didn't even look up. "Oh, don't be so dramatic," she said. "It's not like we stole it. We're family. You drained my entire account. It's not draining if we're going to pay it back," Seth said with a shrug. Eventually, I stared at them. My throat went dry. I turned toward the armchair where Mom sat knitting like this was just another Thursday night. She didn't even flinch. "Mom," I said louder, "did you know about this?" She sighed like I was the one being unreasonable. "Sweetheart, you've always had more than you needed. A good job, no mortgage, no kids. You live alone, you're fine. So that justifies stealing from me." "Language," Dad muttered from behind his phone. I felt something inside me start to rattle. I turned to Sarah again. "How did you even get access?" She didn't blink. "You left your info on the family desktop last time you visited. Maybe next time don't log in and walk away. Honestly, it's your own fault." My fists clenched at my sides. I couldn't breathe. "You're making this a bigger deal than it needs to be," Seth said. "It's not like we blew it on crap. We paid rent, bought groceries. Survived." "You didn't ask," I said. "We didn't think we had to." Sarah snapped. "You've been helping for years. What's the difference if it comes from you directly or not?" The room tilted. My pulse pounded in my ears. I slowly picked up my bag. No one moved. No one apologized. No one even looked surprised. "You're leaving already?" Mom asked, like I was being rude for walking away from being robbed. "Yep," I said, zipping up my coat. "But don't worry," I added quietly. "I'll be in touch." Sarah rolled her eyes. "Don't be like that." Seth smirked again. "We needed it more than you. That's just facts." I paused at the door, then turned back and said calm and clear, "Then you won't mind what's coming next." They laughed, but outside the world had already started shifting. As I walked to my car, my cousin Jen caught up breathless. "Hey, are you okay?" I shook my head. "No." I heard what Sarah said. That wasn't right. I didn't respond. I couldn't. If I opened my mouth, I would have screamed. But here's the thing, this wasn't the first time. It never is. It started small. It always does. Sarah once forgot her phone bill. I covered it. Then Seth lost his job. Just a little to get through the month, he said. There was the birthday gift for their daughter. I offered to split it, except I didn't. They just assumed I would. Every time it sounded the same, "You're lucky," Mason Mom would say. "You don't have the struggles your sister has. God gave you ease so you could share it." "Family means supporting each other," Dad added. Translation. "We gave you life. Now give us your paycheck." I never asked for anything. Not when I was laid off and lived on rice and eggs for 6 months. Not when I skipped vacations for 3 years straight to rebuild my savings. Not even when I helped pay off their $4,000 credit card debt 2 years ago. They never paid me back. Never even said thank you. "You still coming to the reunion?" Sarah had asked last week. "Yeah," I replied. "Should I bring something?" Her answer came quick. "Just bring yourself. And your card. I thought it was a joke. It wasn't." 2 days later, Sarah called. I didn't answer. She called again and again. Then Seth texted, "Just call her man. She's freaking out." I picked up on the 5th try. "Mason," she said, her voice shaky. "We have a problem." "Oh, we do," I said flatly. She hesitated. "Look, don't be like that." Something happened. The power company came today. We're behind on the bill, like way behind. They're threatening to shut it off if we don't pay by Monday. So I asked, "So, we need your help." I laughed. Bitter, short. "You drained my savings. Now you want more." "It wasn't just for us," she snapped. "We used some of it to help Mom and Dad. Dad's car broke down last month, remember?" "No one told me," I said. "Because you know I would have said no. Because it's not my job. You're being dramatic." "No, Sarah. This isn't just messed up. It's criminal." "You always helped," she snapped. "That's what you're for, right?" There it was. The sentence I would never forget. That's what you're for. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay there staring at the ceiling, going over every moment of the past 5 years, every favor, every unspoken demand, every time they made me feel like I didn't have a choice. They never saw me as a brother, a son, a person, just a bank account with a heartbeat, and they had just overdrawn it one last time. But I had no idea what was still coming. You've always helped. That's what you're for. That line stuck to the inside of my skull like a splinter I couldn't dig out. It echoed in my head on the drive home, while I microwaved leftovers I couldn't taste while I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling like it had answers. My eyes were open, but all I could see was that reunion, that couch, that smirk, that smug shrug. And then I remembered something small, something quiet. I was maybe 11, and I'd dropped my sandwich on the floor. No one saw. I picked it up and dusted it off. Grandma saw. She didn't say anything until that night when she tucked me into the guest bed at her house, the one that always smelled like lilacs and old wood. "Sweetheart," she whispered, "you don't always have to pretend you're fine just because no one's watching." That line, that warmth, it came back like a flashlight in the dark. Because that's what it had always been, pretending I was fine, pretending I didn't mind being the giver, the fixer, the invisible backbone of everyone else's life. And now they'd turned me into an ATM they didn't even bother to thank. 3 days after the call, Mom reached out, not with concern, not with apology, but with a family dinner invite. "We need to talk," she said, her voice oddly formal. She didn't ask how I was. She didn't ask about the missing money. She didn't ask if I was okay. "We're planning a dinner, just us. Come over tonight." My stomach twisted. "What's this really about?" I asked. "Mason," she said, voice low, "you've caused a lot of tension. It's time to clear the air." I caused tension. Still, I went. Part of me wanted answers. Another part just wanted to see if they'd even try to fake remorse. They didn't. When I walked into the house, Sarah was already standing by the window, arms crossed, lips pressed tight. Seth sat sprawled on the couch like it was poker night. Dad shuffled through the mail like it was business as usual. Mom hovered in the kitchen, setting the table with more force than necessary. "Well, look who showed up," Sarah muttered. The victim himself. I dropped my bag near the door. "Let's just get this over with." "Good," Seth said, cracking his knuckles. "Maybe we can finally stop pretending you were robbed." "I was robbed," I said, sitting down. That was the cue. Everyone took their places. Mom cleared her throat. "Mason, we know you're upset. But you have to understand, don't I cut in. Just say it. You took my money. You didn't ask, and you're not sorry." "We were struggling," she said. "There weren't other options." "Seth and Sarah were drowning," Dad added. "And you've always been the stable one." "You didn't ask," I said. "You took." "That's not family. That's theft." "Oh my God, stop saying theft." Sarah rolled her eyes. "It was for the family. We didn't spend it on vacations or whatever. We used it where it mattered." I reached into my bag, pulled out a folder, and dropped it on the table with a heavy thud. Sarah blinked. "What's that?" "Every single transaction," I said. "Itemized, color-coded, with dates, times, and accounts." Mom's lips parted. Seth leaned forward. "There's over 70 charges," I said calmly. $1, $470 on makeup, $928 on DoorDash, $2,300 to pay off your car loan. Seth, thought I wouldn't check. You went through our accounts. Seth said, his voice dark. Oh, I did more than that. I opened my laptop and turned it toward them. The screen lit up with a bright color-coded spreadsheet and a fraud report confirmation. I filed it all. Identity theft, unauthorized access, fraud. Sarah's mouth fell open. You didn't? She breathed. I did. You called the police. I turned to Mom. Still think this is just a family misunderstanding? Dad stood abruptly. This is insane. You want to put your own sister in jail. You put yourselves there, I said coldly. Then 3 hard knocks. The sound froze the room. Seth looked at the door, then at me. Mason, tell me you're not serious. I didn't speak. The door opened. 3 people stepped in, agents from the Financial Crimes Unit, badges visible. Mr. Mason Carver, one asked. Yes, thank you for your cooperation. We'll take it from here. Mom gasped. Sarah dropped into a chair like her knees gave out. Seth stood like he might bolt, then froze. You are all listed as parties of interest, one of the agents said calmly, in an open case involving unauthorized electronic transfers and identity misuse. Identity theft. Mom gasped. He's our son. Family ties don't make illegal activity legal, the agent replied. We didn't steal anything, Sarah cried. We had a right. He always helped us. Thinking you're entitled to someone's money doesn't make it yours. Remain seated, please. I stepped back as they moved into the room, and for the first time in my life, they didn't talk over me. They didn't mock me. They didn't laugh. Mom looked at me with tears already forming. Mason, please, we didn't mean to hurt you. We were desperate. You've always been the strong one. I looked her straight in the eyes. You don't get to cry now. Sarah tried to speak. No words came. Seth was pale, stiff as a statue. I slung my bag over my shoulder. You want to talk about what family is, I said, my voice even. It's trust, it's respect. It's asking, not assuming, not stealing, not laughing while I bleed. They said nothing. I turned to the lead agent. I'll be outside. He nodded. We've got it from here. I walked out into the cold night air, and for the first time in years, no one stopped me. They laughed when I said I'd do something, but they weren't laughing when the agent stepped inside. Outside the house, the air was cold and clean, sharper than it had been in years. I stood by my car, the one I'd paid off early, the one I maintained myself. Inside, I could still hear muffled voices, raised, panicked, defensive. Then came footsteps. An agent stepped out and nodded. We'll be in touch soon, Mr. Carver. You did the right thing. That phrase didn't land the way it should have. I wasn't sure how to feel. Angry, relieved, hollow. Instead, I just said, thanks, climbed into my car and drove. I didn't go home. An hour later, I pulled up to a small house on the edge of town. White siding, blue shutters, a cracked stone path leading to the porch. My grandmother's old place. She'd passed 3 years ago, but I never let go of the key. If they ever turn on you, Mason, she used to say, this door will open for you. And it did. That night, I slept for 11 hours straight. No texts, no guilt, no heavy fog in my chest, like every time I stayed near them. I woke up to sunlight pouring through faded curtains, the smell of dust and quiet peace, and something inside me had changed. I made coffee in the chipped mug she always used, stood by the window, and breathed. For once, I wasn't checking my phone every 30 seconds. For once, I wasn't calculating who I'd need to cover for next. But the silence didn't last. That afternoon, the email started. Dad first. This has gone too far. You've humiliated the entire family. What happened to loyalty? Then Sarah. I hope you're happy. They're freezing our accounts. Seth's being investigated at work. You ruined our lives over a couple of payments. A couple try tens of thousands of dollars. Try 5 years of silent sacrifice. Then came Mom's voicemail. Her voice cracked halfway through. You didn't have to do it this way. We could have handled it like a family. They're threatening charges, Mason. They said we might lose the house. I replayed that last line. They might lose the house. And for a split second, my stomach twisted again. Old instincts, old guilt. But then I said it out loud just to hear the truth in my own voice. I already lost a home. I lost it when they decided I was worth more as a wallet than as a son. 2 days later, I got a text from someone I never expected, my younger cousin Eric, the quiet one. We barely talked outside of family birthdays. Just so you know, Sarah's trying to shift the blame on you, says you knew and approved the transfers. There's a lawyer involved. Watch your back. I stared at the screen. Even now, even with everything crumbling around them, they were still trying to flip the story. I called my lawyer. Send everything I said. Screenshots, emails, the call logs. We're not just pressing charges. I want a restraining order too. She nodded. And Mason, she added, "You're not wrong to do this." I didn't reply, but I needed to hear that. Not every message was poison. A week later, I got a short email from Kelly Seth's sister. We hadn't spoken in years. I know we haven't talked in forever, but I just wanted to say you were right about all of it, about how they treat you, about how toxic it's gotten. I used to think you were cold. Now I think you were brave. I read her words 3 times. Brave. No one in my family had ever used that word on me. I didn't even know I needed it until I read it. Then came the final message, the one that sealed it. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. But something told me to answer. Mason. The voice was small, hoarse. Sarah. I didn't say anything. She kept talking. Look, I know I messed up, okay? I went too far. I didn't think it would go like this. Seth's been suspended. Mom won't stop crying. Dad won't even speak to me. And you. She trailed off. You always had the power to ruin everything, she whispered. And you finally did. There it was. The real truth. Not regret. Not remorse. Just realization. You ruined everything. I let the silence drag. Then I said, calm as glass, I didn't ruin anything. I just stopped letting you walk over me. A pause. Then came the plea. Can you just stop it now? Drop the charges. Please, I'll do anything. Just make it stop. And for a split second, I felt something. Almost. But then I remembered the reunion, the wine glass in her hand, the smirk. We needed it more than you. I smiled, bitter and clean. No, I said. You made this mess. You live in it. And I hung up. That night, I cooked dinner. In peace. Played my favorite album from college. Sat on the porch with a cup of coffee and watched the world breathe. And for the first time since I was a teenager, no one asked me for money. No one guilt-tripped me. No one texted, since you're the only one doing well. I wasn't their wallet anymore. I was just me. And that was enough. It didn't feel like revenge. It felt like breathing. That night, I sat outside with a blanket over my shoulders, a mug of bitter coffee in my hands, and the sound of silence wrapped around me like armor. For the first time in years, there were no voices pulling at me, no calls demanding explanations, no texts playing guilt like a piano, just the wind rustling through the trees, and it was enough. But part of me still waited for the other shoe to drop like it always did growing up. The follow-up guilt trip. The fake apology laced with new demands. The family dinner that wasn't really about reconciliation but about reestablishing control. Only this time they weren't the ones with the leverage. I was. 3 weeks passed. The investigation was underway. Sarah and Seth were officially named in the report. Seth's job gone. Sarah's bank accounts frozen. Mom called again, left a voicemail. Her voice was quieter now, less sharp. Mason, I just want to talk. I'm not saying we didn't mess up, but you have to understand. We didn't think it would come to this. You've always been the strong one. Please don't let it destroy the family. Destroy the family. That line made me laugh. Quiet, stunned laughter. Because the family was already destroyed. I just finally stopped sweeping the broken pieces under the rug. I moved. New apartment, new city, new number. I didn't tell them. Not because I wanted to hide, but because I wanted to be free. No more accidental drop-ins. No more Sarah just being in the area. No more Mom asking, can you help with this month's utilities just one last time? At work, my focus shifted. Without the mental weight of 4 other people's financial problems, I thrived. My manager pulled me aside after a presentation. "You're sharper than I've ever seen you," he said. Interested in a promotion, I said yes, because it was time to live for me, not for their comfort. Then one morning, a letter arrived. No return address, just my name written in neat cursive. Inside was a check for $200 and a note. "You were right. I was scared. But watching what you did, it gave me the courage to walk away too. This is for everything you paid for. Ellie's tablet, the rent, the clothes. I know Seth never thanked you, but I am. Kelly." I stared at her handwriting. The words weren't fancy. There was no grand flourish, just truth, raw and steady, and I cried. Not from anger, not from pain, but because for the first time someone in that family saw me, not as a bank, not as the strong one, but as a person. People ask me sometimes, "Do you regret it?" And the answer is simple. No, I regret waiting so long. I regret every sleepless night balancing my own bills against theirs. I regret the tight budgets, the canceled trips, the ignored birthdays, so I could cover their emergencies that never ended. I regret how small I made myself so they could feel big, but standing up saying no. Burning it all down. Never. One day, I mentioned it to my therapist. I'd only recently started seeing one after everything finally pushed me to seek help. She asked, "Why did it take you so long to say no?" I paused, then answered quietly, "Because I thought saying no meant I didn't love them." She smiled, sad and knowing. "Mason," she said, "saying no is how you teach people to love you back." And I've never forgotten that. About a month after the charges were filed, I ran into someone from high school. We hadn't spoken in years. She looked at me with wide eyes and said, "Hey, I saw what happened with your family. That's wild." I braced myself for the judgment, the pity, but instead she smiled. "Good for you," she said. "Most people never get out." I didn't know what to say, so I just said thank you and walked away, a little taller. Back home, I hung Kelly's note on my fridge, right next to an old photo of me and Grandma from years ago standing under the giant oak tree in her backyard arms around each other smiling. She used to say some people won't understand your silence until it turns into a door they can't open. I get it now, and I'm not opening that door again. Sometimes the hardest part of healing is realizing you were never crazy, just surrounded by people who made you feel that way. By the time the second court notice arrived, I had stopped waiting for apologies. What came instead was a cold, carefully worded email from Sarah and Seth's lawyer. It wasn't an admission of guilt. It wasn't remorse. It was damage control. Our clients are open to resolving this matter privately without the involvement of law enforcement should you choose to drop the charges and sign a confidentiality agreement. Not a single word about what they did. Not one sentence acknowledging that the money they took was mine, that the access was unauthorized, that they weaponized family like a crowbar to break into my life. They wanted to put it all back in the box, lock it up, pretend it never happened. I told my lawyer, let it burn. A week later, another letter arrived, this time from Mom. 10 pages, her handwriting still neat but trembling in parts. It started like this. "I don't know where to begin, so I'll just start here. Things got out of hand. That much is true. We didn't mean to hurt you." Already I could hear her voice in the words, sweet, measured, carefully avoiding blame. Then came the line that stuck with me. "We just assumed you'd always be there. That's what good sons do. Not we were wrong. Not you didn't deserve this. Just you were supposed to stay quiet and keep giving." That sentence said everything, and I finally saw it for what it was. I didn't write back, I didn't call, and for the first time, I didn't feel guilty about it. Because sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do to a toxic system is leave it and refuse to explain yourself. The fallout came fast. Sarah's bank account still frozen. Seth under formal investigation at his workplace for falsifying financial disclosures. Turns out he used some of my money to pay off a loan he'd lied about on an employment form. Mom now trying to refinance the house. her voice shaky when she left one more voicemail. They're talking about repossession. Please, Mason, can't we just fix this? Dad apparently telling distant relatives that outside influences had torn the family apart. Still, no one said we were wrong. Still, no one said we're sorry. And then, something strange started to happen. I started sleeping deeper, waking up with fewer knots in my stomach. My appetite returned. I found myself sitting in coffee shops on weekends again, something I hadn't done in years because I was always budgeting for someone else's crisis. I started decorating my apartment, hung up art, bought a new bookshelf, replaced the broken lamp I'd taped together twice instead of replacing because Sarah needed a few hundred to get through the week. I was rebuilding, not just my finances, myself. And just when I thought that chapter had closed, one final twist arrived. My lawyer forwarded me a deposition from Sarah. Inside was a claim I hadn't expected Mason was aware of the transfers. He approved them. He even joked about how we could take what we needed. He said, and I quote, "I always got you." I felt my jaw clench as I read it. She was trying to flip the story legally now, to paint me as complicit, to escape the consequences by saying, he knew, he let it happen. My lawyer called. We'll respond. We have the texts, the emails, the screenshots. You're fine. But that wasn't the point. It wasn't about the legal outcome. It was that even now, even with everything unraveling around her, she still couldn't tell the truth, not even to save herself. I sat with that for a while, that anger, that final betrayal. But then I remembered something Grandma told me once years ago sitting on the porch as the sun went down. I must have been 13, maybe 14. I was upset because Sarah had borrowed money from me again and never paid me back. She said she forgot I told Grandma. She looked at me for a long moment, then said something I didn't understand until now. Some people borrow your kindness, but they spend it like it was theirs to begin with. Sarah never forgot. She just believed she was entitled to everything I had. That night, I lit a candle on my new coffee table, put on a quiet playlist, cooked my favorite meal, something I hadn't done in years. I didn't answer any calls. I didn't check my email. I just sat, in my space, in my peace. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I owed anyone anything. Not money, not explanations, not access, nothing. People like Sarah, they don't believe they're villains. They believe they're owed. They believe that if you say no, you're cruel. That if you set boundaries, you're punishing them. That if you stop giving, you're ungrateful. But I've learned something powerful. Saying no is the highest form of self-respect. And if it makes people leave you, they were only with you for the yes. You imagine healing will feel like fireworks, but sometimes it just sounds like silence. Not the awkward kind. Not the silence that hums with tension or waits for someone to speak. No. This silence was clean, like air after a thunderstorm, like waking up and realizing no one needs you to bleed today. 3 months had passed since the night I blew everything up, since the financial crimes unit stepped into that house, since Mom gasped, Sarah collapsed into a chair, and Seth looked like he might sprint through a wall. Since I stepped out the front door without a single hand grabbing for me, voice calling after me, guilt trying to pull me back in. I hadn't seen them since. I didn't plan to. They say you can't choose your family, and maybe that's true. But you can choose how much of yourself you're willing to lose, trying to keep them happy. And I was done losing. The fallout came fast and messy. Sarah and Seth tried to spin the story, claiming misunderstandings, technical errors, and miscommunication. They didn't realize I'd been documenting everything for months, every unauthorized charge, every accidental withdrawal, every time they used my card for groceries, car payments, makeup takeout without ever asking. Even when I helped cover their daughter's birthday party last year, I had the texts where they said, "You're the best, don't worry, we'll pay you back." They never did. They never planned to. Sarah went silent after the deposition backlash. Seth lost his job. Mom tried to save the house, but too many late payments and too much financial fraud tied to her name made the bank nervous. The refinancing fell through. And Dad, he just kept telling people I'd been influenced, that I wasn't acting like myself. He was right. I wasn't. I was acting like someone who finally realized he was allowed to stop giving, to stop carrying, to stop apologizing for being tired. Some nights I still got flashes: the table, the laughter, Sarah sipping wine while I stared at my empty bank account, Seth's grin, Mom's knitting, Dad's scrolling, no one standing up for me, no one saying, "That's not right," just, "You've always helped," just, "We needed it more than you." They never saw what they took. It wasn't just money. It was trust, time, mental bandwidth, sleep, safety, peace. They drained my life like a bank account, and for years I let them because I thought that's what love looked like. Now I wake up and make coffee slowly. I go on walks without checking my phone for another family emergency. I eat lunch without wondering if I'll need to wire $200 for a surprise expense. My calendar has space. My thoughts have space. I have space. And in that space, I found something I didn't expect myself. People ask, do you talk to them at all? No. I don't check their social media. I don't read their messages. I don't open the door if someone unexpected knocks. Not because I'm angry, because I'm free. And I plan to stay that way. Sometimes I think about Kelly, about her check, her note. And you were right. I was scared, but you showed me a way out. She got out too. I wonder how many others are out there being used, guilt-tripped, emotionally blackmailed in the name of family. How many good sons, good daughters, the strong ones, are quietly bleeding dry to keep the peace? How many are convinced their silence is love? If you're one of them, hear me when I say this. You don't have to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. You don't have to justify your boundaries. You don't have to apologize for saying enough. You're allowed to walk away, and when you do, you don't lose a family. You find yourself. I'm not their wallet anymore. I'm not their backup plan. I'm not their emergency fund. I'm not the one who always helps. I'm Mason. That's all I've ever needed to be. And finally, it's enough. Have you ever faced something like this? Share your story below, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Your strength deserves to be heard.